Starting off in this location, you've got your pressure cap and expansion tank. To the left of that, you've got your big low pressure air conditioning refrigerant pipe. Now on the pipe, you've got your dust cover for one of your recharge points. Moving the camera down to this location, you can see your other air conditioning pipe and recharge point dust cover. Now that smaller pipe is your high pressure pipe. Moving up from the dust cover, you've got a pipe here. Now that is your expansion line. Below the expansion tank, you've got your main supply pipe that supplies coolant from the expansion tank to the engine. Moving the camera to this location, you can see the back of the headlight. Now this component here is for structural reinforcement. On the back of the headlight, which is the offside headlight, you can see information about the headlight and other components. Now this is your washer fluid cap with neck. Now if you were to follow that neck down here, it would take you to your washer fluid tank. There is the electrical connector for one of the headlights. You can also see an adjuster screw to adjust headlight aim. And you can also see below that adjuster, you've got your electrical connector for the electronic adjuster. On this slam panel, you've got information about what refrigerant the air conditioning system uses and what oil it takes. Towards the center, you've got a lever here that actuates your safety latch. There is a cutout for the safety latch. To the right of that, you've got your intake and other warning information. Now this is one of your bumpers. Back in this location, you can see one of your engine mounts and rubber, which is part of your system that reduces vibrations from the powertrain from going into the chassis. On top of the bracket, you've got a fuel pipe. Now this pipe is your supply pipe to the fuel rail. Down in this location, you can see your alternator with pulley, your coolant holes with your stator windings inside, your air conditioning compressor, and other pulleys. At the bottom of the engine compartment, you've got your splash shield. Now this is not only used for aerodynamics, but it's also used to prevent water or try to prevent water from going into the engine compartment via the bottom of the car. You can just see the fuel rail which I mentioned earlier. Moving up to this location, you can see serial numbers for your intake manifold. Just in front of the manifold, you've got a pipe here that leads to your thermostat housing. Now that's your supply pipe to the radiator. You also have your shroud for your DC cooling fan, the electric motor for the fan, your radiator module, and other different components. Now on this manifold, you've got the plenum, your intake runners. Now this component here is your map sensor. Moving to this location, you can see all three of your coil packs, 1, 2 and 3. And this pipe and the other pipe are part of your crankcase breather system. You can also see your rocker cover and your oil filler cap. Back here you can see your differential pressure sensor and one of your engine crane hook attachment points. Moving the camera to this location, you can see your electric motor for the electronic throttle body. Now this pipe here leads to your air filter box. Now underneath the lid you would have your air filter element. Moving up to this location, underneath a heat blanket you've got your 12 volt battery. On the 12 volts battery, you've got a cover here that you can remove to gain access to your positive post. You also have your negative post, which is located in this region, your battery monitoring sensor, and this component here. Now, this component here is your jump start negative terminal. This is your ground cable that leads to your chassis. Now, in pretty much any modern car, your chassis is used as a ground. Now this is a cover that covers one of your power distribution centers. Moving over to this location, you can see quite a few different components. For example, you can see coolant pipes, your pipe leading to the radiator, big wiring harness, your bell housing for the transmission, your cylinder head, and other components. One thing I forgot to mention was you have a vent line for the transmission. On the near side rear of the engine compartment, you've got your ABS modulator. Now on the modulator, you've got your pump, your valve block, your two pipes going to and from your master cylinder, and each of your pipes that goes to your brake drum cylinders and brake calipers. Moving over to the left, you can see your two pipes that leads to and from your heater matrix, one of your bleed nipple dust covers, heat shielding for the exhaust system, your steering rack with boot, other electrical connectors, your flex pipe for the exhaust, emission control sensors, and other different components. Looking down at this location, you can see one of your gear selector cables, your transmission bell housing, your transmission, and other components. You can see your engine crane hook attachment point, which I mentioned earlier, one of them. You can also see your differential pressure sensor and other different components. For this engine, you not only have a catalytic converter, but you also have a particulate filter. Moving the camera to this location, you've got your brake fluid cap and tank. Moving the camera more down to this location, you can just see your master cylinder. Just behind the master cylinder, you've got your brake booster. Now that sensor there is to measure how much vacuum is in the brake booster. You can also see one of your pipes leading to your ABS modulator.